Okay, this is the Code Room presented by Stathole Sports. Follow the blog on Twitter at Stathole Sports. I do my own sports statistics research to try to make funny blog posts. So give it a follow and check it out. Today, what I'm going to talk about is a GIF I made or a GIF, whatever you want to call it, um, looking at fourth down adherence rates to what NFL analytics says you should do on fourth down. So pretty much when you should go for it on fourth down. And I've got a look of it here. This came out in 2014 from the New York Times. They posted an article online with this, and as you can see, it's basically a strategy card, kind of like a blackjack basic strategy. What you should do on fourth down, given the game state that you're in, and you can kind of look and see all of the yellow boxes there mean that you should go for it. So anytime on 4th and 1, you should be going for it. 4th and 2 from your own 28, pretty much on to the goal line, and you can kind of see how it funnels down there. Um, the dark blue means you should punt in those situations. Pete Carroll's favorite play, and then the light blue is field goal. So I tracked all of the times in which teams should have gone for it. So all of the situations in that yellow from 2009 to 2019, and just basically built a percentage of how often teams gave it a try. Didn't really care about the result of it. I just wanted to see how much are NFL teams coming around to believing some of this stuff. So if we take a look here, I've got a couple of still frames from that GIF I made. So in 2009, you can see the Jacksonville Jaguars were leading the pack, but only at 40%. So only 40% of the time were they going for it, when in one of those yellow boxed situations from the prior screen here. Well, fast forward 10 years, and league wide, the rates have really gone up. We all know Baltimore. John Harbaugh this year has really uh, taken a dive into analytics and has really incorporated that with the Ravens. But he's not alone. A lot of other teams have done the same. And then if you look on the pretty much the other half of the league, they're pretty much stuck in kind of like the 1990s. Denver, New York Giants. Surprisingly, the Rams. I figured with Sean McVay they would have been a little bit more, new agey. But what are you gonna do? So let's go ahead and take a look real quickly at the final product here. So I've got my GIF here, and yeah, so here it is. Oh goody, The Bachelor's trending. That's nice. Anyway, as you can see, it tracks from 2009 to 2019. I posted this in November and got a pretty good reaction online. It was retweeted, and I got a very courteous mention from the Wharton Moneyball podcast. They were talking about fourth down go for it rates, and mentioned me on one of their podcasts. So that was really cool to see. So pretty much, I'm gonna kind of walk you through how to build this starting from scratch using NFLScrapR data. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so here I am in our studio. So I've already loaded the NFL scraper data here. So this is from 2009 until 2019. Okay, so here we are in our studio. So first thing we're going to do is we need to read in the data set here. I'm going to do it with a read RDS. So these RDS files, especially for something like this with 500,000 rows and almost 300 columns, the RDS files load in pretty quickly as opposed to, like a CSV or something else. So this is only going to take just a quick moment here, and we'll have our data, and then we'll be on our way. So there it is, and pull this over a little bit here. So yeah, you can see what we got going on here. Pretty much the first thing I'm going to do is load my tidyverse. Should be the first package you load. Yeah, and now I'm just pretty much renaming this variable to df just so it's kind of easier to work with. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pare this down because I don't need all of these columns, and we need to do some filtering here. Obviously, with this type of analysis, I'm only interested in fourth down plays. So first thing I do here is filter down equals 4, right? And the next thing is I don't want a play type to be no play. So the exclamation mark and equal sign means I want this to not equal no play. Take out everything that says no play and play type. And just for fun, we can look at what types of plays we have. If we call it levels, and then I don't know if this is a factor, so I'm going to say as factor, so we're going to make it a factor in this call. And then df play type. So this call here is going to show me all of the different play type possibilities that there could be in this data set. And here we go. We've got extra point, field goal, kickoff, no play, note. What the hell is note? I don't know. Let's take note out too. I don't know what that is. So here we go. Something new. Play type is not equal to nope, and we'll also say play type is not equal to note. I don't know what the hell that is, so we don't want it, and that is not an equal sign. That is. All right, what else we got here? We've got pass, punt, QB kneel, spike, run. Okay, so all of the things that you would expect to do on fourth down, except take a note. I don't know why you would be taking notes. You should be playing football. So we'll take that out. All right, now we want to select the columns that we're going to use. So we've got possession team, we've got season, description. I generally throw description in, even if it's not going to be part of the analysis, just so I can kind of look. And if something looks weird, I can kind of look to that to see why it might be in there or whatever. Yard line 100, the quarter, half seconds remaining is going to, you'll see why that's important in just a second here. Game seconds remaining, really kind of wasn't, but you can kind of look at these, you can kind of see why most of them are in here. And then drop in a yard line 100. So why did I do that? So let's run that same thing I just did, only except for play type. We're gonna do yard line 100, and okay, so these are all of the yard line 100 recordings. I don't see any NAs here, so I'm not sure if there was at one time. But in any case, we actually don't need this, so to make things a little less confusing, I'll just take it out. Okay. And get rid of all that. Alright. And then we're going to do another filter here as well. I could have just put this all in one line, so hopefully it's not, doesn't throw you off too much, but this filtering here is pretty much I want to control for some situations that you find in a game. So the WP, that's the win percentage, and if you are if your win percentage is less than 0.2, that means you're in dire straits, and you're likely going to go for it more than you generally would anyway, so we don't want to include those plays. And we also don't want to include plays where the game is at hand, because maybe you'll play more conservative just because you are, likely going to win anyway. So all of the plays in which teams had, between a 20 and 80% chance of win were used for this. And then also we took out the last 2 minutes of the game. So we want the half seconds remaining to be greater than 120 seconds. Okay, so that is what all that is, and that's going to set up our database to get it ready for some feature engineering here. So we're going to create a column here, and that column is going to tell us whether or not the bot says that they should go for it. All right, so making this here, so we're making go for it bot says. So the column name is going to be bot says, and it's going to be created into this go for it database that I just created, and we're just going to assign them all a value of 0 to get things started. So we'll do that. Okay, and so now I'm going to do this big convoluted thing here, and it's pretty much going to tell us whether or not the bot says that you should go for it or not on that play. So really useful way to do this is, and this is one of two ways to do this. I'm going to show you another way as well that looks even clunkier than this, but this is actually a fairly clean way given kind of the intricacies that we're dealing with here and the specific values that went into that chart that I showed you before. All right, so I'm mutating the bot says column, and I'm using this case when call in dplyr. And so what it's going to do is it's going to look at whatever condition you give it and then it's going to assign it. We've got the tilde here saying yards to go equals 1 tilde 1. So what this means is that it's looking at the yards to go column, and if that column equals 1, we're assigning this new variable bot says to 1. Okay, and if you'll remember, what this means is that if it's 4th down and 1, regardless of any other circumstance, you should go for it. So we're assigning 1 means yes, go for it on that play. All right, and so that's a little bit easier. The next one's a little bit more to it. So on 4th and 2, you don't want to go for it on every time you're going for it at 4th and 2. Only the times in which you are at between yard line 100s of 72, or sorry, less than 72. And this might be a little confusing at first because we're used to viewing yard lines going only up to 50, but given that there's two sides of the field, we can't do that. So the 72 is equal to that 28 yard line. So if you're at your own 28 yard line or smaller, so from all the way up to the goal line, then you should be going for it on 4th and 2. So we're assigning bot says to a 1 on that as well. Okay, so 4th and 3. This is where it gets a little bit more convoluted. So we're looking at yard line 100 of smaller than 60 and greater than 20, or yard line 100 is greater than 2 and smaller than 5. So if it's at the 3 or 4 yard line is what that means, then assign it a 1. So what's with all of this stuff going on? Well, if we look back at our handy dandy chart here, where's my thing? Scroll out here. Yeah, so 4th and 3, there's this little patch here, so on the 3 and 4 yard line. So that's why there was that second condition for 4th and 3. Made it a little weird. I won't go through all of these, so you kind of get the gist here now, so you can look through 4th and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. These are all the other, situations in which you would go for it. So let's go ahead and just run all this and see what we got here. Cool. All right, let's take a look at the data here. So this is the go for it data frame. Um, again, these should all be fourth downs. And yeah, that's why you see most of the play types are either punts or field goals, or something you would do on fourth down. And then we've got a lot of NAs, and then we've got ones for situations in which they should have going for it. There's NAs for these other ones. So looking at that makes this call kind of pointless. So that really wasn't necessary. So what I did down here is you can fill that in by assigning the go for it bot says replace NA with a 0. So let's do that, and that should fix it. Okay, let's take a look here. So now we should have, so now we have zeros in all the places that were NA. Okay, so that's all set for us. That was the first way you can do it. There is another way you can do it. You can use a for loop. All right, let's scroll down here. Look at this ugly, beautiful beast. This for loop could also be used instead. And so basically, I'm assigning a new variable called fourth bot, which is very similar to the one we just did, bot says, just to make a different column doing it, the same thing, just in a different way. So assigning that to 0, and then for I in the n row of go for it. So go for it has 24,088 rows. So that's what that number is, what this is representing. So it's going to go through it that many times, and for each row, I is each row. Whatever that row says, or whatever the yards to go, if that yards to go mark equals 1, then we know that you should go for it, because you should go for it on all fourth and ones. So go for it bot of I, assign it a 1. Okay, and then it kind of goes through else if, kind of the same thing as up before, and it's just given the conditions of when you should go for it, and then saying, okay, give it a 1 for fourth and 2, fourth and 3, fourth and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then once it goes through all of the conditions in which you should go for it with the else if calls, then the else call just, for everything that's left, it says assign it a 0. So effectively filling in the loops. I'm not going to explain how to do a for loop, because this is a pretty dense example. So if you don't know how to do a for loop, look for an easy YouTube video to familiarize yourself with, and then maybe you can come back to this. So I'm going to run this, and given that I reduced this down, shouldn't take too long for the for loop to run, and it's all already done. So I just wanted to make sure real quickly that the different methods we used came to bring the same results. And just eyeballing here, you can kind of see it looks like it did. All the times and there's a 1, they match here. But we can do this a little bit more carefully by running a logical. So go for it bot says let's run a logical. If go for it bot says does not equal fourth bot, and then we're going to sum how many times that is. So add up all the times in which they do not match, and ta-da, 0. So that means everything was the same regardless of the method that we used to assign whether or not teams should go for it. So now what we need to do is evaluate how the coaches and the teams did doing this. So I'm going to make a quick vector here called x, and it's just going to be pass and run. So these are going to be the two play types, that would indicate that the team went for it. All right, so I'm just going to run that. And now I'm going to create another column, and it's going to, just be called went for it. which is exactly what it sounds like. Did the teams go for it on that play? So running just a quick if-else call. If the play type is in X, so if it's a pass or a run, if it got labeled as such, we know that they went for it. So that we're going to assign it a 1 in those instances, otherwise a 0. So 1 means they went for it, and 0 means they either punted or kicked a field goal or, went home and cried. I don't know. Whatever they did, they did not go for it. So we'll run that. Okay, and then looks like we've got another column here for correct decision. So this is another if else. So if the fourth bot equals the went for it, then we know that not only did they go for it when they should have, but it kind of takes away the times that they maybe went for it when they shouldn't have. We only want to look at the times in which they should have. That's kind of the purpose of this analysis. So when the bot says they should do it, they did it. If then give it a 1, otherwise a 0. So we'll run that. And then now I've just made some objects here that were easy for me to create some graphs. So as you can see, I put the team strings here for each conference. I'm just gonna run all these real quickly, and then I made some graphs. So just gonna run through all of these real quickly, kind of come back to exactly what I did to make them, but let's take a look at what we got here. Okay. You can kind of see it's loading graph by graph here. We're looking at each division and just tracking throughout the years how what percentage of teams went for it when they should have. So here we've got the NFC East. Dallas is kind of all over the place. The Giants were really high on the mark in 2018 and then kind of crapped the bed back in 2019. Philadelphia, once Doug Peterson came on board, you can see they've been pretty consistently aggressive when they should be. That's not super surprising. Doug Peterson's a pretty aggressive coach. Looks like Matt LaFleur might be 2 in his first year in Green Bay. The Bears suck. I'm a Bears fan. I can say that. Okay. Seattle, again, Pete Carroll has been known as being a big doof on fourth down, and you can kind of see that's kind of shown here. So is Sean McVay, though. You wouldn't think that, but, I mean, that's, it is what it is. Meanwhile, you got teams like Buffalo and Miami have been really being more aggressive on fourth down. And then, obviously, the team, all the analytics people love, the Baltimore Ravens. They've been the most analytically driven on fourth down. They lead the pack out of everyone here. So just real quickly how I did each of these graphs. I'll just show you one of them, but because they're all kind of the same. Is we took the Go For It database, that one we just created, and filtered it so that we're looking at only times when the bot says you should go for it, and then we're filtering all of the the teams, so the possession teams, to be in whatever conference we're looking at. We group by the season and the team, and we summarized the mean of went for it. So how often did they go for it when they should have? So that's kind of how that worked. And then the graphing you can kind of see as follows, a little facet wrap here with 4 columns just so we can get that kind of side by side for each of the divisions, and a few other things added on top here. So this was the same thing done for each of these graphs. So just a kind of a informative way of looking across the league here to kind of track how teams have done throughout the last 10, 11 years. All right, so the next thing we need to do is create the bar charts for each of the years, tracking this, fourth down adherence. Okay, so this one was done a little bit differently. So again, I'm just going to run through all of these, and I've got G19. I'm labeling these graphs, or I'm naming them as objects. So that just means graph 19. So for 2019, I got 2018 and 2017 and so on, all the way down to 2009. So that's going to be everything that's running here, as I just kind of scroll down. So I'll meet this thing at the bottom. Kind of depressing. It is able to compute all this information in the same amount of time as it takes me to scroll. All right. Oops, not doing this. All right. So it made all of those objects. Let's take a look at one of them. So let's take a look at the G19 was one. Okay, so this was for 2019 then, and just kind of stretch this out here. So now we're starting to see what that GIF was that I created, at least one of the frames of it. So this was for 2019. Let's scroll and take a look at what I did here. So for G19, and again, it's pretty much the same for each of these. So a similar thing, looking at only times in which the bot says you should go for it. Now we're only looking at 2019. I'm doing a reorder here. So this is a very useful call, because I don't want this to sort by alphabetical order of possession team, because otherwise it would do that. I want it to sort from left to right by the teams with the highest adherence rates, because as I go through each of the years, that's gonna help make the viewer get what I'm trying to convey. I don't really care about anything, any particular team with this particular graph. I just want to show the impact league wide, that analytics has had in getting coaches to go for it more on fourth down. So that's why they're all the same. All the bars are the same color, because I don't really care about the teams. But anyway, to do that, we're doing a reorder of the possession team, and we're doing minus the mean on this, and then the mean over here. This this is reordering it so that it goes by pretty much descending by the mean. So if I were to have taken this out, it would have been flipped. So Baltimore would have been on the right side, Seattle would have been on the left side. But I wanted to go from left to right. And then so that's anyway, that's pretty much how you get that call. Okay, stat equals identity here for the geom bar. This you need to do anytime you're just pulling a number that's already there. So it already has an identity. You're not grouping or adding anything together from different rows in the data set. It's just from one cell. So that's why you need the identity. And then this is just the color for all of the graphs. Just adjusting the labels here. I kind of like a 45-degree angle for most of my graphs. I think it looks, just looks clean. All right, everything else kind of self-explanatory here. Nothing super interesting. So that's pretty much that. And so what I did was, I can call a couple of these these graphs here. So G9, G10, G11. I'll just do a few of these, and they should show up here. Okay, so got each of these here, and I can kind of scroll through them. I'm going backwards through a few of these just to show the different ones, but I basically saved all of these as says files, and then I could have done a GG animate on it, but given that there's only 10 frames, I went ahead and just went to a website, this easygif.com, and put them in here. It kind of allowed that cool little crossfade thing that you see going in between the charts. So and it allows you to give a time limit for how long you want each frame to last. So I found that useful for this particular one. Yeah, you can kind of see that nice little crossfade, and then at the end for 2018 and 2019, I slowed it down a little bit, just so that you can see the effect that it has. Okay, got 2 notifications because I'm so cool. All right, bonus for you. So now that you know how that was all done, what about the situations in which teams are going for it when the bot doesn't recommend this? So this was another thing that I took a quick look at that was mentioned on the Wharton Moneyball podcast as well, that they found interesting. And so I create a new data frame here, aggro 19, what teams are being a little bit too aggro on 4th down. So situations in which bot says 0, the column, we already made, but went for it equals 1. And then looks like I also did win percentage is greater than 0.2. So they weren't, in complete dire straits where they had to just chuck the ball regardless of if it was 4th and 30 or whatever. Okay, and then just looking at 2019. So let's create this real quick. And now let's create a table here. So aggro 19, we're going to group by possession team. So we want to see how many times aggro equals. We're counting how many times they went for it when they shouldn't have done that, and then arranging it in descending order. So we'll get the top teams on top. So here we go. So oh hey look, there's my Bears. They were the most aggressive on 4th down when they shouldn't have. So congrats to the Bears, finding a new way to suck. Or were they? Who knows? Maybe they had good reason to do that. But anyway, not really a whole lot to be gleaned from this, really, to be honest. It's such small numbers, but just something interesting to look at. And finally, I don't want to spoil this. Let's get rid of that. One more graph I want to show the success of 4th down conversion rates when teams should go for it and when they did go for it. So how successful were they? And do that for each and every year. So I'll just click this. We'll run this to give the graph. Okay, so just real quickly kind of show you what this is. So you can see each year I've got points for each year on the conversion percentage for these situations. Again, only the times in which the bot says you should go for it and the teams did, right? And then so this blue line is kind of your middle point, your model of how well teams did, and you can see the points are kind of up and above that, above each of those. In 2019, they did not do quite as well as you might have predicted. In 2018, 2017, the teams were more successful on 4th down than you would think. So that's what all these dots mean. 2019 really took a tumble. So likely just due to variation. You can see that's, not super uncommon for it to be that far off of the mean. It's just what happens, because quite honestly, the numbers aren't that large, of teams adhering to this fourth down bot. Um, they're not tiny, but they're small enough to where this is not atypical. This is, nothing really to be super concerned of. Um, and so yeah, so that's pretty much it. Hopefully this was helpful. Give Stathole Sports a follow on Twitter, and maybe we'll do this again. Bye for now.